Welcome back to the Stretch the Floor podcast. I'm Matthew here, as always, with Venushan, and we are we're 3 games into the conference finals of this year's NBA playoffs, and we find the Warriors up 3 games to nothing on the Mavericks, and we have a tight series between Boston and Miami. That's been back and forth. Miami won the first game, Boston took the second game, and Miami took the third game. So yeah, let's just kind of talk about what we've seen so far in these series. Let's start in the East like we usually do. So back and forth series. What have your thoughts been so far? 3 games in,
It's just so injury riddled.
Yeah.
Like the first 2 games, Kyle Lowry can't play. Then game 2, like PJ Tucker can't play, close it out. Then game 3, Jimmy Butler can't close out that game. And then on the Celtics side, you have Marcus Smart missing game 1, and then Robert Williams missing game 3. You have Al Horford missing game 1. So all the Celtics losses, they have a huge injury to look at and say why. And then the one Heat loss, they could be PJ Tucker wasn't there for us, Kyle Lowry wasn't there for us. And then in game 4, Jimmy Butler's going to be playing through that knee injury. Tyler Hill was just announced out due to that groin injury. We don't know about Robert Williams, if he's going to come back and play. So again, littered with injuries. Kyle Lowry still day-to-day. And it sucks that this great series, which has produced really entertaining basketball, really fun to watch basketball, that is just injuries is the main thing. And the main thing you see every team saying, right? After every loss, if you look anywhere, it's Celtics fans just saying, oh, wait till Robert Williams comes back, wait till Marcus Smart comes back, stuff like that, right? And then if you look at the Heat side, it's oh, wait till Lowry or wait till PJ Tucker gets back, or even for that almost blown comeback. They're oh man, you guys only came back because Jimmy Butler wasn't here and stuff like that. All valid points because these are all big players getting injured, right? It's not some scrub off the bench getting injured. These are their starters, 6-man getting injured. So it all makes sense. It just sucks that that's the main focus on this series.
Yeah. The series has been all about the injuries. Feels like whatever team wins is going to be the team that's healthier. But then it also feels like whatever team claws their way into the finals from this series is going to just be, a shell of themselves, maybe
on one leg.
Playing on one leg injury wise. But I mean, we've seen some incredible performances. Bam Adebayo in game 3,
amazing,
insane game, clutch at the end. We saw Marcus Smart look like he was maybe going to be out for the rest of the series, the way he went down to that ankle and comes back right away. So we've seen some really good performances, but I don't know. I'm sad Heat are up 2-1. I'm still leaning Heat, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if this series went 7 still.
Yeah, which is probably the worst thing that happened with all these injuries, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, with Tyler Hero out today, I'm leaning towards the Celtics.
Yeah.
I feel just that lack of scoring power and the lack of shot creation, especially with Jimmy going to be on one leg. Kyle Lowry has been on one leg this playoffs. He's nowhere near the Kyle Lowry you expect to see.
Yeah.
You're just going to focus in on Bam, focus on one leg Jimmy, and I think the Celtics can really win this game. And if Tyler Hill comes back on one leg again, like Jimmy Butler, I think I would have to lean Celtics in 7. Yeah.
Yeah, if Butler's on one leg and Lowry's on one, whatever he's on, and Hero's on one leg, then you may have to lean Celtics, even with the Williams injury trouble, even with Marcus Smart and all that.
Yeah.
Just injuries to more important players on the Miami side. It sucks that we're talking about injuries being the deciding factor in the series, but that's just playoff basketball. It's a grind, and they say Jimmy Butler's injury is not considered serious, but I bet if this were the regular season, he'd be missing a week, 2 weeks, maybe.
Of
games.
2 to 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just playoff basketball for you. Now talking about the other series, the Western Conference series, injuries have not been nearly as much of a theme. We saw Otto Porter left game 3, but that's kind of been it. Correct me if I'm wrong in terms of injuries. I think that's been it.
Tim Hardaway Jr. hasn't played in forever.
Yeah. Mavericks it seems like they blew an opportunity at home in game 3. They needed to take that game big time. They blew a lead in game 2, and they found themselves down 3-0 in the series. But it doesn't feel like a 3-0 series to me. Obviously, the Warriors have played better. They are the better team, but This could easily be 2-1. This could easily even be 2-1 Mavericks if they don't blow that lead in game 2.
Yeah, it just sucks because like they're getting out rebound, which is like something like they can't do, right? Like Maxi Kleber and Dwight Powell, like you gotta like do your job. And then game 3, like Reggie Bullock shot like what, like 0 for 10 to start the game. Like he didn't even get points up. Like so imagine Reggie Bullock hit some threes, right? Like that's a completely different game. So it's just these role players, Maxi, Dwight Powell, Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith. Like if these guys just rebound and hit their threes, like the team will be in a much better position. But that's also why these guys aren't looked upon as like elite role players, right? So
yeah,
he's elite. Like they have to get some better role players and better guys in. And it sucks to the Mavericks how you say that because they're still like a young team. Like Luka's still young, and we're all saying, oh, they have to like do a kind of retool after a really successful season, making the conference finals. Because we know one conference finals doesn't mean you can just stand pack. Because the Atlanta Hawks made the conference finals stand pack. They weren't even like in the playoffs basically. Yeah, they're the 80, but we know they're going to lose, right? So they have to really improve this coming off season and really improve those wing players. Do something with the Tim Hardaway contract and maybe a couple picks and stuff like that. Get someone in. But yeah, this team definitely needs a pretty big improvement come off season.
Yeah, and it's kind of going exactly how we predicted in terms of Luka Doncic. 20 points, 42 points, 40 points, pretty good efficiency. He's doing his part. It's the role players that have been the ones that have decided they kind of make or break the Mavericks. They're going to get shots, and if they don't hit them like Reggie Bullock, then you're not going to win too many games.
Yeah, and we knew this defensive scheme was coming because anytime we see Golden State regular season, playoffs, whatever, that's their plan. They're gonna one-man guard Luka or double him, and they're gonna make sure, like, you can get your 40, but we're gonna make it a little bit difficult on the role players so they don't get started going, right? Because if Reggie Bullock hits 2 threes to start the game, and now you have to be on him, that just makes the defensive scheme much harder on the Doncic, right? So they know what they're doing. They know, like, hey, 40 points isn't going to beat the 90 we're going to score on our worst day, right? And they know they have Steph Curry who can score 40 himself, right? So they know, let one player go off. Don't let the team go off. We knew this was a scheme coming in, and we knew it was going to work. It's probably still going to be Golden State in 5. Luka's probably going to drop 50 in game 4 and prevent the sweep. But yeah, Golden State is your Western Conference Finals winners, and Steph Curry's probably the new winner of that Magic Johnson Award.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it looks that way. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. And last week we were pretty certain that it was going to be the Suns that we were going to be talking about this week playing the Warriors in the conference finals, but no, the Suns actually lost Game 7, and now we get to talk about their offseason. Let's talk about DeAndre Ayton first, mainly because he's kind of the focal point of their offseason. He is a restricted free agent, and there's been some drama, like he maybe doesn't feel as respected or wanted as he could be by the Suns and their front office and their coaching staff and whatever. Teams, if DeAndre Ayton is even a little bit available, teams are going to be lining up to get him. One of those teams might be our Toronto Raptors in a potential sign and trade, Pascal Siakam, and
it just doesn't happen. Like sign and trades, you don't get a player better or a higher value that what you're trading away, right? Like,
so who do you that's the question. Who do you think is who's the better player and who's the higher value player?
Pascal's I agree. All NBA player.
Okay.
Like, we're talking about Ayton's potential because he's 23 and all that stuff. No one's slotting him in to become an all NBA center. We're slotting him in to become an all-star center.
Sure.
So at his highest potential, we have him under Pascal Siakam. So unless the Suns throw a couple picks in, like this trade and this scenario is not happening. I feel like it's just Suns players that are like, oh, the Raptors need a center. We could use some extra playmaking and the versatility that Pascal Siakam brings. Let's make this trade happen.
Yeah.
Oh, like Pascal Siakam's arguably a better rebounder, better playmaker, better scorer, better defender come playoff time, 100%, better switchability, versatility. And he's just someone you can make offense for. You don't need to like you don't need a guard creating offense for him. Someone that could bring the ball up the court, which is very important. Like DeAndre Ayton needs a guard to bring the ball up the court for him.
Mhm.
So it's just a very lopsided sign and trade. And unless the Suns add a couple of picks, it's not happening.
I'm with you. I mean, you asked me, would I want DeAndre Ayton on my team?
Sure.
Yeah. Like it's hard to draw up a more current NBA prototype kind of archetypal center than DeAndre Ayton. You know, he's super athletic. He could rebound better, like you said, but you could, in the right system, putting him in the right situations could turn into maybe not an all NBA center, because all NBA centers are the Jokic's, the Embiid's, the Towns, who could carry an offense by themselves, right? He's not probably ever going to be that guy. But you asked me if I want him on my team. Yeah, I do.
Sure.
But straight up, no chance. I would definitely need more on their side. I mean, if I wouldn't be upset if, say, they added, 2 first-round picks or whatever. Like, I think if I saw that trade, it'd be like, okay, we got Ayton at center, we got Scotty at the 4 and OG at the 3. It kind of all fits together. But value-wise, I'm totally with you. Pascal Siakam's only, what, 27? 20? How old is he?
Yeah,
28?
he's still in his 20s. He's 28. Yeah.
Still got a couple years on that contract. He's his value is, he's a better player than Ayton, and he's not even old, so I would say his value is probably even better than Ayton, because, like you said, how many All NBA, 2-time All NBA guys realistically are you gonna be able to trade for? Not too many.
Yeah, and like a more realistic sign and trade target is like Jeremy Grant, someone who's like all-star caliber. Yeah, someone like all-star caliber, like Jeremy Grant.
Yeah. See, I think in that situation, so I guess, so if it's between Jeremy Grant and Pascal, whose value do you think Ayton is closer to, Jeremy Grant or Siakam?
Well, like it's Grant because it's a sign and trade. So when you sign and trade someone away, you always get the lesser player back, like the team. Like when Golden State signed and traded away Kevin Durant, I know he was an unrestricted free agent. People are going to bring that up, but like every sign and trade is not real. It's not a fair value. It's not equivalent exchange. It's not a normal trade. You're going to get back a lesser player, even if he's a restricted free agent. And that's why you're going to get back Grant. But with the Grant trade, you don't have to add picks. It's just going to be straight, right? And then they're going to put Grant, they're going to have Sadiq Bey, Ayton, Cade Cunningham, pick number 5, and they're going to build a team over there, right? And then you have Chris Paul, you have Devin Booker, you have Bridges, you have Grant now at the 4.
Mm-hmm.
You have Grant at the 4, and then you add a couple picks.
Yeah.
You add a couple picks with Jay Crowder and like Dario Saric, and you could go get a Miles Turner. And now you're talking about Miles Turner, Grant, Bridges, Booker, Chris Paul. Like you're revamping your roster while still maintaining contender status. So that's much more likely trade to happen, where you use your picks in one trade, and then you use the sign and trade Ayton in another trade to get 2 quality players in, rather than getting a third star in Pascal where you use your picks and things, because you can have such a lackluster center at that spot with like JaVale McGee starting, right? So that's not going to be realistic. So look the other way, where you get Grant and Miles Turner, which is much more realistic.
See, I agree that usually in a sign and trade, you do typically get the lesser player. You look at, like you said, Kevin Durant. You look at Kyle Lowry. I mean, you could argue is Precious Achiuwa and who's the lesser player there? I don't know, but you typically do get pennies on the dollar in term when you do sign and trades. But I think it's a little different for a restricted free agent, because the team is kind of in the driver's seat, don't you think? Because if they decide to match his contract, they just decide, like, it's not really, he doesn't really have too much of a say, so they can kind of, they have a better hand, I think, in this situation.
Detroit's like, all right, match the contract, pay him max. Okay.
Yeah.
Come talk to us off season. He doesn't want to play with you guys. Play him a max, and then we'll talk to him in the off season. Or we'll talk to him, in the trade deadline. They're not really like we're gonna offer him a max if you don't, and if you don't want to pay him a max, he's gone. He's gonna be on a max contract. You can either have Grant and help facilitate us getting him, or you could just pay him a max. So they're not really in like a win-win spot, right? It's either
True.
they trade him or they pay him a max. So it's most likely, like we talked about all these scenarios and stuff, it's most likely they're just going to pay him a max. And
Yeah.
they're just going to try to fill in the margins, try to get a power forward using their picks plus, who they have like 9 million for Shamit, they have like 10 million for Crowder, they have like another 9 million for Sarge. So like using all the picks that they have, plus like all those three contracts and upgrade that power forward spot, upgrade Crowder to a more someone who does a little playmaking, someone who does a little shot creation. Like that's the more likely scenario, and Ayton's back on this team. But this is it's the start of this. Playoffs are still going. So all these crazy rumors are allowed to happen right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Totally. Most likely scenario is always the most boring scenario, which is just re-signing him to a max and then filling the margins where you can. I guess that's kind of the biggest domino for their offseason to fall, right? Just the Ayton thing and then whatever ramifications of that are. I don't think there's any
there's no
major things coming. There's no I don't foresee that. Yeah. Okay. Should we talk a little draft maybe?
Yeah.
Or
we can do a quick Bucks one.
Okay, let's just talk about the Bucks. The Bucks are out and Chris Middleton was injured.
This is on a near max.
Not too many options for the Bucks here. We got Giannis on the max. We got Middleton on the max and Drew on a near max. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you don't really have too much wiggle room there. You just kind of try to sign veteran minimums, draft well, and all that stuff. Just fill in the margins around them and hope that those three are healthy come playoff time, and you're always gonna have a chance to win the championship, right?
Yeah, that's the recipe for the next 4 years, and it worked out 1 year, and it would work this year if they were healthy. So
exactly,
it's a good recipe.
You're gonna take that return every day of the week, right? 50% championship return. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little draft here. So we had the draft lottery. Just to recap, we'll talk about so Orlando Magic won the draft lottery. We got the Thunder 2, Rockets 3, and Sacramento Kings 4, and Detroit Pistons 5. That rounds out the top 5. So I guess let's just kind of talk about where we see the big names going. I would say every mock draft I've seen is split between Chet Holmgren and Jabari Smith for the 1 and 2 picks. Yeah. Do you have an opinion on where the Magic should go with that number 1 pick?
So Chet's kind of like the shot blocking, a little bit of playmaking from the perimeter and stuff like that. Kind of a Miles Turner, like with perimeter skills, I would say. Whereas Jabari Smith's kind of like a shooter, like he can shoot really well, kind of like a Jaren Jackson, but at like a power forward, you know what I mean? Like Jaren Jackson is a power forward, but then like Jabari Smith's a more natural power forward. He's not someone that you look at and be like, he should play center. What we do for Jaren Jackson every single season. So like when you look at Jabari Smith, you're like, he is a power forward. So it's either who would you want, just potential wise. I think Chet has more. Like if he gets a better shot, if that handle tightens up a little bit more, if that mid-range pull-up comes up a little bit better, right? We're talking about a 20, 22, 23 point scorer with elite defensive capability. That's an all NBA level guy. And that's a franchise guy. So you have to take him first. Whereas Jabari Smith will fall to OKC with the second pick. He's just an elite second option. Jaren Jackson kind of really good defensively with a really good shot and a really good at the power forward spot. Exactly what you want your second option to be. He too can average like 20 points, but his would be a lot from creation from the guards, from Giddey, from Shea. And that's kind of a team that's perfect for him to fall into because Dort's going to be on defensively. Shea's going to be on defensively now that he has more offensive help. And then he's going to get so much playmaking and shots from Giddey and Shea.
Yeah, honestly, I like the OKC fit for either one of these guys, Smith or Holmgren. But it feels like the top two it's only debate between those two for the top two right now, you would think. So then moving on, does it feel like number 3 to the Rockets is a lock for Paolo Banchero?
Yeah, it's a lock. It's those 3 guys are the top 3 guys, and people are going to make cases for Paolo like until drafting, but he's going with 3. We already know where he's going. The only thing is it sucks that he's going to that team personally, because I think like mentality wise, that team doesn't like strengthen like focus on defense that much.
Mm.
And that's Paolo's like main NBA weakness. Like he's a really good offensive scorer, really good offense out, but he just doesn't try defensively. And going into Houston, I hope they actually like punish their players for not trying defensively, because you hate him to develop bad habits, which limit him in his whole career, right? Because he needs to develop good NBA skills and defensive skills for him to be really good defensively. And I don't know. I like him at 3, but I don't think he's gonna pan out to the All-Star, which people are projecting.
Mm. He's a big guy. I didn't realize just how big he is. A
Yeah,
big guy.
he's a
He's
big guy.
6'10", 250, and we got Smith, same height, 40 pounds less, and Chet Holmgren is 7 feet, only 195. So Paul's a big guy. He can,
He's
if
NBA ready.
he's NBA ready, and I don't think you can argue that he doesn't have the physical tools to be a good defender.
Yeah,
So it's just a matter of, if he goes to a team that's going to focus on
like a
defense,
Spurs. Like he would've been
Spurs,
great on the Spurs.
totally. It might be. Let's hope it's not wasted potential on Houston, right? And then
Yeah, for sure.
it gets a little debatable. I think I see, like, Shaden Sharp. He's the Canadian prospect, right?
Canadian,
I see
yep.
him up there in the top 5. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with most
Ivy's the lock.
Ivy, Keegan Murray. These guys,
Yeah.
I'm not too sure about them. All I know is that Shaden Sharp is Canadian. If he went in the top 5, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, Ivy's the lock at 4. Like he should be getting that 4th spot. The only thing with the Kings is they're probably looking at trade that 4th spot.
Mm.
And it's just, who can you get with that 4th pick? Can you like work a Bradley Beal like sign and trade type of thing with that 4th pick? Like how does that work with draft coming around a lot, and stuff like that? Can you work a Pascal Siakam trade, right? Like again, like his name's back in it. Like how interested are the Raptors in Jaden Ivey?
Mm-hmm.
Can that work, or Shaden Sharp? Because the Raptors are always outside the box, right? So like what can the Raptors do with that? Or like you just look at other people that's like near NBA, all NBA talent, and you look at the 4th pick. The player that I like that's being mentioned a lot here as like a trade potential is Donovan Mitchell. Just putting another elite scorer alongside De'Aaron Fox with Sabonis. That team's offense is going to be crazy. It's going to be one of the best offenses in NBA. And then on the Jazz side, they're going to give you a 4th pick, Ivy, who's a prototype similar to Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
And they're going to probably give you future draft potential as well, and some like cap flexibility. So that's something I like. It's just who's available with this pick and who's looking to rebuild. Are the Jazz looking to rebuild, or can you work something with Beal, or is that out of the picture?
Mm-hmm.
It's just who's available.
Yeah, the number 4 pick, it feels like, the player you can get with that 4th pick feels like they could turn out to be like a franchise player, like like you said, Jaden Ivey. He's a similar mold to Donovan Mitchell. I've seen like that's a comparison. If I can get Donovan Mitchell at 4, I'm gonna I'd be willing to trade a star for that. Even Shaden Sharp, like I've read on him a little bit, and getting like Paul George comparisons, Jalen Green comparisons. That's pretty interesting to me. It's not like these guys are, big projects that don't really have too much NBA ready skill.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And the only issue with Shaden Sharp is that he just didn't play his freshman year. So it's a big risk. If he goes to the Kings, I could see him being a bust. If he goes somewhere else, like to the Spurs, like we always say the Spurs, because they should have been up higher. We wish they were. And like the mock lottery, like where they like experimented, they got pick 1, and it sucks that they got such a like 9th pick now. Like if he falls to 9th, which isn't too out of the picture. You can see Keegan Murray jumping to 6. We could see AJ Griffin jumping to 7. He could see him dropping to 9th. And with the Spurs, they could let Lonnie Walker walk. They could, they'll just open up minutes for him. And we could see Shaden Sharp and like Primo, the 2 Canadians, being the shooting guard, small forward future of the San Antonio Spurs.
That would be something. Yeah. So you think the top 4, maybe not in order, but you think the top 4 is locked in some permutation? You got Ivy going for.
Yeah, I think Ivy. I think if Kings even want to just draft someone like lower, like let's say 5, they'll just talk to the Pistons and like be like, hey, we'll draft Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
You draft Keegan Murray, who we want, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and you attach us 2 second-round picks, right? Like they'll
Mm-hmm.
get something from Ivy just by drafting him, kind of like how the Raptors did back in the day with Vince Carter, right?
Mm-hmm.
They drafted Antoine Jameson, and then they traded Antoine Jameson to Golden State for Vince plus like a couple picks.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ivy's getting drafted to be
Yeah.
king.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting too to see who the Pacers go for at 6, who they pair, with Tyrese Halliburton going forward. It's going to be, do they go with another guard? Do they go with a wing?
They're like too much like question marks. They're really estimate
Yeah.
about them because they could trade Brogdon, they could trade Turner. Like,
Yeah.
how do they feel about Chris Duarte? Like he's already 23, even though he was just a rookie, right? Like he was a 4-year college,
Mm-hmm.
so he's already older, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what is their potential? What are they gonna do? Who are they gonna flip? Who are they gonna move? There's so much question marks about them. It's hard to really project who they're gonna get. It was kind of like the OKC of last year, where we knew we thought we knew like Scotty was going fifth, and then after
Yeah.
Scotty, we
Yeah.
didn't know who was going next.
Yeah.
And Giddy was the guy that went there, and that was kind of a big shock until draft day. And I think 6 will be that spot again where it'll be the big
Yeah. Yeah.
shock.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Do we
Just be like
so obviously this was just a very, very, not polished or anything preview of the draft, just our early thoughts. It's not time for a full mock draft and all our notes. Yeah, that comes later after the playoffs. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, I guess in the meantime, we just enjoy the end of the conference finals, and we enjoy the finals, and any trade talk that comes up about Ayton, about Siakam, about Donovan Mitchell, Bradley Beal, all those guys. Yeah, exciting time in the NBA calendar. Okay. Yeah, I think we can wrap this up now. As always, thank you for listening. You can find us everywhere: Instagram at Stretch the Floor Podcast, YouTube STF Clips, and of course, subscribe to the podcast feeds, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get them. Leave like a review, 5 stars. It all really helps. Thank you again, and we'll see you next week.